Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the channel. I'm Ben, and today we are going to take the MacFox X1S Special Edition with the dual batteries out for a nice long test ride through a variety of different terrains. We'll see how it performs out on the pavement, say hi to the cows.
Morning, cows.
Then we'll find a nice gravel back road and see how the bike handles out there.
Doesn't really feel too twitchy or anything. Takes the jumps. Very nice.
Once the brakes are bedded in, we'll see just how well they work.
Woo!
And then we'll head for the woods to see how the bike performs off-road on some 2-track trails.
Yeah, definitely bunny hops good. Liking that. Rides wheelies just fine.
And that will lead us to my favorite single-track mountain bike trails, and we'll see how the bike handles those.
That seems alright. I think we can do this.
And these do have a large variety of obstacles, so we should be able to really put the bike through its paces.
Woo! Yeah.
Including some large hills that will definitely give us a good chance to test out the bike's power.
Oh boy, yeah, now we got no problem getting up here.
And of course, we'll have to hit my favorite jump.
Woo! Oh yeah, that was definitely a good one.
Then after all that hard riding, we'll head back to the pavement and see how many miles we get out of the dual batteries.
This has been flipping back and forth between 1 bar and 2. Now it looks like we're pretty well stuck on 1.
But of course, before any of that, we've got to get the bike unboxed and assembled. It appeared to be pretty well packaged, and I didn't notice any damage from shipping. The bike does come about 90% assembled, but we will have to get the packaging removed and a few things put on, like the second battery, the tray for the battery, as well as a few other parts and pieces, like the handlebars, the front wheel, the kickstand, which does stay out of the way of the pedals, which is nice. Of course, still need to put some pedals on, but I will be relying heavily on the throttle to provide a sort of worst-case scenario for range. One of my favorite parts about this bike is this headlight and number plate. We'll get that bolted up and plugged in, as well as the second tray for the battery, which does require a bit of plug and play. Just make sure you zip tie all your wires back into place so they don't get in the way of the tires, which are MacFox branded 20x4 semi-knobby tires, sort of a dual sport 50-50 on off-road tire. We've got 180mm drilled and slotted rotors with mechanical disc brakes. The S in X1S signifies that we get some suspension up front, which is a dual crown fork, compression adjustments on the right, preload adjustment on the left. Brake levers have some little rubber grips and actually feel quite nice, as do the faux leather ergonomic grips. Thumb throttle on the right. The metal pedals are nice and wide and have some super grippy cleats on them. Chainring is small to medium, and we've got an awesome looking gold chain that leads us back to a single gear at the back. Then we've got our 48 volt 750 watt peak hub motor. The purple faux leather cross-stitch banana seat is quite comfy, but only towards the rear. If I unlock the top battery here and pull it off, we can see that it is a 48 volt 10.4 amp hour battery, as is the bottom, and they do have separate keys. Get that locked back into place. Each battery has a USB port for charging a device, an on-off switch, and a meter on the top. With one battery turned on, we can turn on the display, and we've got 3 pedal assist level settings. On the left, we've got a high and low beam switch with an on-off button at the bottom that actuates the center portion of the headlight. The running light is always on. The low beam has a nice cutoff, and the high beam is bright and focused. Around back, we've got a tail light, which is always on when the bike is turned on, and if we squeeze either the left or the right brake handle, we get a brake light. To give you guys an idea of the size of this bike, I'll throw a leg over it. I am 5'10", I've got a 31-inch inseam, and I weigh about 150 pounds. Pedal stroke on this bike when sitting on the back part of the seat seems fairly comfortable. If I scoot towards the front, it's a little bit more cramped and isn't very comfy to sit on, but it seems like I still could pedal this way if I needed to. The bike feels pretty light and easy to bunny hop. Also seems like it should have a pretty good balance point for wheelies. But first, of course, we've got to get the batteries charged up to full, so we'll plug in the 2 amp charger here, which will take each battery about 5 or 6 hours to charge.
So I did add my own mirrors to the bike for safety, which means I did have to move my control pad from its original location to the center here. So now obviously I'll have to take my hand off of the grip to adjust my pedal assist level setting, which probably isn't the safest thing, but I would highly recommend a set of mirrors of some sort. So on pedal assist level 0, we get absolutely nothing from the throttle. We wouldn't get anything from the pedals either. I'll bump this up to level 1 and we'll hit the throttle and see what happens here without touching the pedals. Pretty immediate response. Not too exciting of a takeoff. Looks like we're topping out right around 8 miles an hour. And the throttle and pedal assist levels are linked, so if I bump this up to 2, it will immediately increase speed. Looks like that takes us to about 15 miles an hour. And if we bump it up to the 3rd level, doing a slight uphill, but it looks like we're going to get to maybe 21. But of course, we're not getting to top speed here because I only have 1 bar left on 1 battery. And because we've got dual batteries on here, I started the ride out 9 miles ago before I started filming, but I've only been using this top battery here. So if I flip that one off and then turn the bottom one on, we will essentially have removed this battery from the equation. Now we should have a more or less brand new fully charged battery. So let's see what this thing does if I just hit the gas on pedal assist level 3 here with a full battery. At least it should be pretty full. 55 volts. I will click this over back to the odometer here and let's see what it does. Yeah, so we had lost a little bit of top speed before, but right now we're right around 22, going uphill even. Losing a little bit of speed, but this is a little bit of a grade we're going up. Morning, cows. Afternoon, I suppose. If we add pedaling into the mix here, I'm engaging the gear, the single gear in the back now. You can tell that I am helping the bike. Definitely a little bit of a quick pace to maintain. I could certainly do this as a bit of a sprint if we needed to drag race somebody, but I really would not want to do this for really any much longer than just about that. Oh, look at that. We're at almost 25 for a top speed. So this is about all I would really want to do as far as pedaling goes, and that'll still hold us at a little over 23 miles an hour, about almost 24. Definitely doable. However, I'm not actually helping the bike at all. I'm doing what would be considered ghost pedaling. So essentially I'm just pedaling fast enough to trip the cadence sensor that tells the motor to go. And I mean, that certainly works. It's better than just keeping your legs in one position, I suppose, but you're not helping the bike really. You're not saving any battery power, so you might as well just be on the throttle unless you want the exercise. And speaking of the cadence sensor, let's see how long it takes to kick in. I'll start right about at 12 o'clock. Let off the throttle. Ooh, almost more than a full rotation. Yeah, it's like a rotation and a quarter about before it'll kick in. And because of that single gear on the back, when you do go to take off from a dead stop, if you don't use the throttle at all, you are essentially then taking off with no power assistance. Yeah, until about there. So that is a little odd. I mean, I personally pretty much always use the throttle when I take off on these anyways. And if it is a bike that you have to shift, you don't have to worry about shifting down into a low enough gear to take off. As far as pedaling this thing goes, it really is fairly comfortable. The seat kind of does get in the way a little bit. Your legs end up being sort of out a little bit to avoid rubbing on the sides of the seat. But other than that, once you get used to it, I mean, it's really a very nice bike to pedal. It's nice and quiet. The tires do have a bit of a hum to them, but there really isn't anything annoying. It's almost kind of a nice sound. As far as the handling of it goes, it really does feel like a very nice, solid, well laid out bike. Really takes corners nice, doesn't feel nervous at top speed or anything. Definitely a very enjoyable bike to ride. I like the handlebars, I like the grips. It's really a very good bike to cruise on, which is essentially, I think, what it's set up to do. As far as wheelies go, that spring in the front definitely helps you get it up in the air. Of course, keeping one finger on the rear brake, and that will do, of course, the main thing, which is slow the bike down, but will also kill the motor as soon as you hit that. So that's a good thing to keep in mind. See if we can time a wheelie right with the throttle and the pedals. And a little bit. Oh yeah. Definitely wheelieable. Would not want to sit way up on the front of the seat. That feels like plastic covered in maybe a little tiny bit of foam. The back part is definitely where you want to be. That's a much more comfy spot, and kind of has almost a nice spot to sit in that you almost get a little tiny bit of a backrest. It sort of keeps you in place. I can definitely see cruising on this thing. Certainly not the fastest bike that I've ridden, but obviously I think they're going a little bit more for BMX style, and I think the bike definitely fits that, and the performance I think is just fine for that type of bike. Brakes are not bedded in yet, but definitely feel good, just like they did on the X1 that I tested probably about this time last year. One thing I will say about this one though, I don't really miss the twist throttle, but it does seem like, I don't know, I suppose it comes up pretty easy. I don't know, I want to say that other one felt like it had maybe a little bit more power, but I could be wrong. All right, let's see how this thing does on some gravel. Whoa! Well, I gotta say, I think I do appreciate the front suspension on here in comparison to the X1 that I tested that had no suspension. Of course, we still have a hardtail in the rear, so we're gonna be relying on the fat tires and the squishy seat for any sort of cushion for my spine back there, but we'll see how it goes on the gravel here. Really does feel okay, certainly not as grippy, I think, as some of the more knobbier tired bikes, but this really isn't a bad sort of dual sport-ish tire, meaning kind of a good mix for a little bit of pavement. They're a little bit smoother out there, but still has some off-road capability. Bike doesn't feel too incredibly nervous. Shorter wheelbase and the not super aggressive tires get you, I guess, I think, as good of traction as you need. If you're specifically looking for an off-road bike, this probably isn't the right answer, but I mean, it can certainly do it, and it's still more than enjoyable. Just not going to be the ideal off-roader. But that being said, I mean, it handled these bumps just fine. If you've got to go through some of this, it could definitely be a good option still, and is not scary or uncomfortable or anything like that. I'm definitely enjoying cruising down the back roads here. Standing up works just fine. I've got the bars rolled forward a tad. I'm gonna lose my camera though. Yeah, if I put a little bit more weight over the front tire, that helps a little bit as well. Doesn't really feel too twitchy or anything. Takes the jumps very nice. Yeah, I think I gained a lot of confidence when I'm up over that front tire, so that certainly helps. And really, the position of the seat does put you pretty much over the rear, so the front is, I mean, quite light. So it really shouldn't be a surprise. I should know better being a dual sport rider that you got to get that weight over the front if you want any traction, regardless of what type of tire you got on there. So certainly doable. definitely comfortable and fun. Let's test out some brakes. Coming down from about 22. Woo! Oh yeah. Brakes, even being mechanical, really do work very well, and I believe these are the exact same ones that were on the X1. I think those did have a brand name on them, and I didn't see a brand name on these, but really works, I think, just about as good as you need for this type of bike. So while I do prefer to see some hydraulics, the mechanicals on here seem to work just fine. Of course, have to adjust them a little bit on the ride as they stretch out, because of course they are still brand new, but hopefully that'll slow down a bit after a while. All right, let's see how this thing does on some two-track trails, which, if you guys are unfamiliar, that's essentially a track through the woods, most of the time an old logging road, which I believe is exactly what this is, that is big enough for a truck to go down. Let's see how she handles this. Again, feels good standing up. Front suspension definitely doing some work for me. Easy enough to bunny hop. Not an incredible amount of speed or power for climbing the hills. But that being said, we're still doing it just fine. Slowing down a little bit at the crest there. I guess I could help out a little bit, but who wants to do that? Woo! Yeah, definitely bunny hops good. Liking that. Rides wheelies just fine. Oop. A little bit too much for my mirrors to handle though. How about a turnaround test with the dual crown fork? Some bikes have a problem with this. This one, being that I can rotate it almost 90 degrees, has absolutely no problem at all, as long as I can balance it. Ah! Yeah, no problem. Woo! Oh, on the way out to the trail, I thought, no way would I be taking this thing off. I was cold, but now that I'm out here pedaling, warming up quick. All right, let's see what this suspension can do on some mountain bike single track. That seems all right. I think we can do this. Definitely nice and flickable and certainly light feeling. Generally, most bikes you'll see out here are going to have a 26-inch wheel, where this has only got a 20, so making it up over some of the obstacles might be a little bit difficult. But so far the throttle seems to be doing a great job here. No problems. How about up this hill? And with a little bit of a run, she does it, losing some steam at the top. Maneuver around the rocks. No problem. Yeah, ergonomically, I really do not mind this bike for this. Really feels like a BMX bike, which is actually what I grew up on. I haven't spent, nearly as much time on, mountain bike trails in my youth as I have now. A bit older when I'm testing electric bikes out here, but I gotta say, it does feel good. Whew. As much as it's not really intended for this to be on a BMX style bike again, these just really are fun. Nice and light, easy to whip around. Let's see how she handles the bumpy rocks. Sure looks good sitting there. I think they intended this to be sitting on a busy street side at a cafe or something, not out in the woods, but I gotta tell you, I sure am enjoying it so far. Woo! Yeah, a little rough on the back, but man, the front, really handles that quite well. Another thing that I really like about these 20-inch ones is they're super easy to turn around. Again, if you guys are interested in anything that I'm using today, bike of course included, but also any of the other stuff. I have links down in the description that if you click on them and make any purchase, it helps me to continue making videos like this. I definitely appreciate that because I sure do love having the opportunity to come out here and test these. Still can't quite believe that I get to call it work, but woo, I have been very blessed with the opportunity to do this. I wonder how many other 20-inch bikes you'd see out here if you spent a lot of time riding these trails. I don't think I've ever seen one. But I gotta say, especially with the little electric motor on here, it makes it a lot of fun. Sure wouldn't want to pedal a regular BMX bike around something like this, but whoa! With a little bit of help from the 500 watt motor, 750 watt peak, woo! With 750 watt peak, it's pretty enjoyable. It still is a bit of work. I always think it's funny people give me crap for riding these out here, and while I'm sure I would be in a bit better shape, or at least have to be in a bit better shape to do it on a regular old pedal bike, this certainly ends up being a bit of work on its own. Whew. Really works pretty well sitting down too, especially when you need a break. Yeah, I think I enjoy riding this more here than I do on the road, and if you've got some sort of urban places to explore, I can see it being a little bit more fun. Just cruising at top speed on a county road isn't really the greatest, unless you can go, well, I guess a little bit faster than 20 miles an hour, but again, not really what this thing is designed to do. I think it is best suited for some sort of obstacle or terrain, and for that, I mean, it really does good, partially just because it is, I mean, so even with 2 batteries on here, ridiculously light compared to a lot of the other bikes that I ride out here. So I'm going to take a sip. And carry on. I think we'll try this on pedal assist 2, and I will use the pedals instead of the throttle. We'll see how that goes. I think the sensor isn't actually that slow. It's just that you need to be pedaling a little bit faster for it to pick it up, which I guess isn't honestly a bad thing. Some of these you just accidentally breathe wrong on the pedal, and all of a sudden you're going way faster than you meant to be, which is of course why it's always a good idea to keep a finger on the brake no matter what you're doing, preferably the rear off-road. Power delivery is a little weird there. I was feeling some kind of odd surges, again, I think just because you have to put a little bit more speed into the pedals than you would think. Yeah, it's having a little hard time there, so we'll help it out with the throttle. That'll give me continuous power going up these big steep hills. Let's try that on pedal assist 3 instead. Come on, power, where are you? I'm doing everything myself here. What's going on? There we go. Yeah, it kicks in at a bit of a weird time for off-roading, but oh boy, yeah, now we got no problem getting up here. Yeah, definitely plenty of power. Whoa! Ah! Almost too much. Oh, what a beautiful woods. I miss summer, but it is nice to be able to see such long distance through these. It's really a cool area, and definitely some cool trails. Let's see what we can do about some jumps here. Ugh. Woo! Yeah! That throws this up in the air really nice. Of course, I'm helping a little bit, bunny hopping it, but this is a fun bike for this stuff. Partially, I think that is just the hardtail. It just makes it a little bit easier to sort of bounce off the rear wheel. Woo! All right out there. It's been a long time since I broke one of those. Let's hope today's not the day we break another one. The pedals, woo, being nice, wide, and grippy like they are, certainly help me stay up on the pegs for a bit longer, which of course is definitely needed when you're doing any sort of aggressive style riding, regardless of whether it's out here or in the city. And I definitely am enjoying that nice big platform that they give me. Front suspension isn't... Ooh, apparently I mounted my light a little bit too low. yeah, isn't really bottoming out, I don't think, at all. So that's definitely good to see. That sure is a cool looking bike. I think that's got to be one of the coolest ones that I've tested. I think I say that just about every time I get a cool one, but it sure is a neat looking bike. All right, let's see what this thing can do on some big jumps. Woo! Oh yeah, it just gets tossed in there. I gotta slow down here. That usually doesn't happen. Woo! That wasn't quite right. Woo! Oh yeah, that was definitely a good one. Whoa! Can't do a stoppie on rocks covered in gravel. But those brakes really have been doing an excellent job out here. I can easily get them with just a couple fingers. Where'd my drink go? There it is. So as much as I've said this thing doesn't really belong out here, I've got to say I really enjoyed this just a ton on all of these sort of difficult or intermediate obstacles. I mean, riding this thing around just on the road is totally fine. It works, but it really starts to shine when you get it on some more difficult terrain. I really, really have had a good time riding this thing out here. Definitely like the grab handle on the back here for maneuvering it around when needed. Like that the kickstand's out of the way. So we've been running it off of this battery here, and we've got 15 miles. I think it was about 9 when I flipped it over. So definitely not doing too bad for all the obstacles that we've been doing. It seemed like it drained it a lot faster running top speed out on the road. Turn that off. Turn that on, and we will see what we get out of this thing for range on the way back here. Boy, that is throwing me off having that control pad there. So I'll probably do throttle most of the way back, and we'll update you as the bars drop. Oh, which they already have. Now we're down to 2 bars. Oh, I hope I don't end up pedaling this thing all the way. It really isn't, I guess we could try that, too terrible to pedal by itself. I mean, definitely feels like a pretty heavy BMX bike, and I certainly wouldn't want to have to do too many of these bumps and hills out here, at least not for a long period of time. Certainly wouldn't come out here and do this for fun unless I was really looking to build up my legs. But it is possible, and I mean, I think you could definitely pedal it home if you ever ran the batteries down, like I may have already done to myself today. But only one way to find out, so let's get to draining the batteries and we'll see what happens. We should see if my friend the grouse is here too before we go. Sun's getting low on the horizon, getting late in the year, but thankfully these trails are groomed, or some of these trails are groomed and open in the wintertime too, so we'll be riding e-bikes all year long. If you guys are joining me on the SWANKYCAT channel, which is my main sort of dual sport channel that I've been posting on for years and years now, I'm also cross-posting these e-bike reviews, and will eventually be putting them solely on the Swanky Bike Rides channel. So if you guys want to make sure you keep seeing these in the future, don't be shy. Hit that subscribe button. I can put a link for that channel down in the description if you're watching this on the main channel. Getting near 500 subscribers, which I definitely appreciate. Glad to see that you guys enjoy coming along with me on these rides. I certainly do love taking them and bringing you along. And if you've been along on any recent ones, you might recognize this place as the Angry Grouse's hangout. I'm not seeing them. I guess at one point in time he was way over there, so maybe I missed him. Just absolutely no fear. Oh, you're gonna fight me? Oh, what? Okay, I'm going. Oh, you crazy little bird. I hope he's all right. Maybe he finally got ran over by a bike trying to attack people. Let's hope not. So I suppose I really haven't said anything about it in a while now, and I haven't really been spending that much time on the seat since we've been off-road. But I've got to say, the little bit that I have been sitting down on it when I've needed a bit of a break from being up on the pedals, it really is a pretty darn comfy seat to sit on. I don't know if it'll pack in a bit and get uncomfortable, but so far, man, I mean, it is beautiful and it is super nice to sit on. Again, in that sort of back position. I wouldn't really want to be up at the front at all, because that is definitely feels a bit like, well, one of these rocks with a little bit of padding on it. But the part that I feel most ergonomically correct in certainly is plenty comfy. The grips and the bars and everything, I mean, feel really good. Most of the time I don't really like the faux leather grips off-road because they're kind of slippery, but with the little bit of the ergonomic paddle on there, it's not giving me any problems at all. My hands aren't feeling wore out or tired or anything. I've really been feeling, honestly, I think a lot better than I expected to feel on this thing out here, and I guess really know why, because the last bike, the X1 that I rode out here like this, I really, really love too, and I think it's just sort of in my head that this isn't what this thing is meant to do, so it's not going to be fun, but boy, it is just the exact opposite. I've enjoyed this thing out here. I mean, again, it's probably one of the most enjoyable bikes that I've ridden out here, which just doesn't make sense because it's not a mountain bike. It's a BMX bike and really meant for street cruising and to look good, and I mean, it does all that just fine, but boy, it sure is a good time out here on the trails too. I really like this thing. The suspension on the front, I think, definitely makes it much more comfy to ride out here, or really anywhere, even on the road, than or in comparison to that first one that had no suspension, so definitely happy to have that. Well, we're still running about 2 bars, and I've found that the best place to sort of cruise at for pedaling and saving a little bit of power is on pedal assist level 2. The chain ring on the front mixed with the one on the back, and the amount of power that the motor's giving you is just about perfect. I mean, it's a good cadence. It's enough that I'm helping the bike conserve power a little bit, but not overworking myself and not having to pedal too fast to keep up. So definitely a good cruising speed. Very comfy. One of the brakes does seem to have picked up a little bit of noise, but of course we're riding through a lot of dusty, rocky terrain, so I'm sure we got a little bit of debris in there. My job is to drain the battery though, so we'll bump that up to 3 and just use the throttle the rest of the way. Beautiful day for a ride. So we are 22 miles in here, and this has been flipping back and forth between 1 bar and 2. Now it looks like we're pretty well stuck on 1. Might be able to get that to bump up a little bit if I flip off the, I guess whichever battery is drained the lowest. Looks like we're measuring about 46 volts. We're still holding 20 miles an hour just fine with just the throttle. So definitely can get some range out of this even if you are riding it hard. Brakes are definitely working well. Seat is maybe getting slightly uncomfortable here and there. If I shift around just a bit, then it's totally fine. I mean, there's definitely some squish there. Obviously, depending on your size, that may be a little more or less comfortable for you. But, I mean, with 22 miles on this ride, I'm not surprised at all. Usually at this point in a ride with a bike that has mechanical brakes, I would complain about them. But like I already said, I mean, these have been working just fine. Obviously, the cables are going to stretch. You're going to have to adjust the top adjuster as well as the bottom one here as they stretch. And then you may have to even pull some cable out. But they really seem like they work just fine for the weight of the bike. So really no complaints there. I mean, I would definitely like to see hydraulics, but if the mechanicals work just fine, there's really no reason. The only real complaint that I think I have about this thing is just the power delivery. The cadence sensor threw me off a little bit. I think it just needs maybe a little bit more speed than I'm used to. I'm sure you could get used to it. If the motor had just a little bit more snap, I think it would be a little bit more fun. There may be a way to turn up the controller. I didn't see anything but that doesn't mean that it's not there, so you might be able to sneak a little bit more power out of it. I couldn't get it to 25 unless I was really pedaling hard, but that being said, I mean, it really handled all of the terrain that I rode it over just fine. It's not really intended to be a hill climber, but it did, I think, a pretty darn good job, and I really enjoyed my ride on it today. So if you guys want to pick one of these up, I will put a link for it down in the description, as well as a discount code if I have one of those to offer you. There'll be, like I said, affiliate links to the other stuff that I use in the video too that also help the channel out, and I definitely appreciate it when you guys take the time to use those. Thanks for watching, guys. Take care, stay safe, stay swanky, get out, enjoy this beautiful world on whatever type of machine you've got, any chance you get. And if you can't do that right now, here's some more videos to check out in the meantime.